popcorn instead of pretzels at happy hour, but only when she's feeling risque. Most of the time she sticks to the traditions, one of which is to make pointed remarks about my lack of promising beaux and my biological clock, which, as far as I can tell, is still ticking away at 34. She's more enamored of the idea of grandchildren than I am of an icy cold beer on a sultry August afternoon. It being a sultry August afternoon, I wasn't all that thrilled as I dutifully went into the PD, glanced through the mail that had accumulated in my 2-week absence, and debated calling the sheriff's office to notify the dispatcher that I was back. I finally decided against it, since there was a real danger that Sheriff Harv Dorfer actually might have something that would interfere with my immediate objective. He seems to believe I'm the only officer in the county capable of writing up a real juicy accident report, or intervening in a domestic dispute out on some remote dirt road. He may be right. A goodly number of his deputies are Buchanans. I can eat an ice cream cone without anything dribbling down my chin. I wasn't in the mood for anything but that beer I mentioned earlier, and maybe a grilled cheese sandwich to tide me over until supper time. I made sure my bun was firmly affixed to the back of my head, applied a layer of lipstick, took my badge from a desk drawer and stuck it on my T-shirt, and walked down the road to Ruby B's. There were more pickup trucks and cars in the lot than had graced the PD parking lot in the last 3 years. I squinted at Jim Bob's Super Saver Buy for Less across the road. Heat was shimmering on the asphalt, but business was far from booming. There were a few people trudging in and out of the Suds of Fun laundrette, also part of the Jim Bob Buchanan financial empire, and the old coots were nodding on the bench in front of the barber shop. Roy Stiver was sitting in a rocking chair by the door of his antique store, playing the redneck for a couple of tourists, ogling a pie safe. My amazingly inefficient efficiency apartment is above the store. At some point down the line, I was going to have to drag my suitcases upstairs and start shaking sand out of my unmentionables. The sand was likely to enhance the decor. No one appeared to be committing any crimes, so I continued inside the bar and paused to allow my eyes to adjust to the dim light before I ambled across the dance floor. The jukebox was blaring some nasal lament of lost love, and the booths were filled with familiar, but not necessarily attractive, faces. Estelle Oppers, Ruby B's best friend and co-maven of the Grapevine, was perched on her stool at the end of the bar. She's tall and as scrawny as a free-range chicken. The only thing different about her was her hairstyle. Most of the time she piled her fire-engine red hair into a daunting beehive, but today it shot out like a frizzy explosion. "So you're back," she said as I selected a stool far enough away from her to give me a chance to take cover should her hair begin to flicker. Her tone was accusatory, but this was not extraordinary. She and Ruby B were pretty much always convinced I'm doing something wrong, like not subscribing to Modern Bride magazine. Looks like it. I picked up a menu on the off chance it might be a chicken fried steak day and Ruby B had leftovers in the kitchen. "What happened to your hair?" She sniffed haughtily. "If you must know, I have been experimenting with a new product. What would the clientele of Estelle's hair fantasies think if I tried it on them and all their hair fell out?" "Is all your hair going to fall out?" The kitchen door opened and Ruby B came out, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Might be a blessing if it did, Estelle. It looks like you were roosting on a utility pole in an electrical storm." She turned her gaze on me. "Well, are you going to sit there and insult Estelle, or are you going to tell us about your vacation down in Florida?" Decisions. I put down the menu and said, "May I have a beer, please?" Ruby B is often mistaken for a grandmotherly sort because of her chubby cheeks, stocky body, and starchy apron, but she's more akin to a stevedore in drag. At the moment, her eyes were snapping below several layers of undulating pink eyeshadow, and her expression was sour enough to curdle milk as she banged down a mug of beer in front of me. "At least you remembered to say please," she said. "Sometimes you act like you were raised in a barn. Last month, Eula Lemoy told me you walked right past her in the produce section and didn't so much as ask about her or..."